This conference
take
will
a
now
nap.
be
It's
recorded.
practically part of my daily routine. And last night we had not really trick-or-treating, but Chipotle has this annual Halloween promotion where if you go in a costume, you get burritos for $4.
Ooh.
And my family has gone to Chipotle for Halloween for like 7 years now. So we went to Chipotle and we came back and we dressed my King Charles Cavalier as a king, and we went to another Cavalier's house. And I came home and I was just exhausted. So I thought, I'm going to lie down for a moment. So that moment became from 8 to 10 p.m. And then I woke up at 10 and I was like, okay, let's get some work done. And I went to bed at like 2:30 and I was like, oh, this is going to hurt in the morning. And it hurt. But here I am. I showered, everybody, and I put on a shirt. It's not a clean shirt, but still, these early calls, I'm still thinking, don't go with the pajamas just yet. These people need to be broken in a little bit before I go full pajama on them. We'll see how long it lasts. My guest of the day has yet to arrive. We're going to talk about reliable traceability. But in the meanwhile, I've come up with a few tricks, and I'm happy to share the tricks. So what am I going to look at first? I'm going to keep these here. First is I discovered this yesterday. Can you see my screen? I think you can.
Yeah.
This is Facebook Workplace.
Ah.
In other words, this is Facebook getting into Slack's space.
Really?
This virtual collaboration thing is real, people. So congratulations to you early adopters. Yeah. So I just created this for my chorus. I haven't done anything with it yet. I haven't invited the director, the president, the music director yet. But there's enough nonsense emails going back and forth like, Joe, do you have the show poster yet? And who ordered the tickets? That I just could do without the emails. This is better. Here's another thing that I can show you. I've downloaded Slack as an app on my phone. So you can see there.
Yep.
You could download Slack, and when you do, you have the entire interface here. And what I've done is I had some shower thoughts today, and I dictated them to my Slack in the place that I'm going to be doing work later. So one of the thoughts was, I think as early as next week, we're going to have more than 25 people on this call, which means this every single week, same meeting link isn't going to work. And I've been trying to think, how am I going to get around this? What am I going to do? And I bet that there is a GoToWebinar. How many of you're all familiar with Salesforce. I don't know how many of you have used it, but they have their app exchange library, which is like thousands. It's probably only the Apple Store is bigger in terms of people trying to work with the application. Slack's going to be there. I don't think it's, but I haven't looked, maybe a few hundred so far, but it'll be in the thousands. And I'm thinking that there's got to be a way that I can send you a link, or I can set up a future week call, and all you have to do is click on it to indicate your interest, and I'll register you so that you just get the link sent to you so you know the link for this week's call. I want it to be as frictionless and as easy as possible. So that's on my homework list. I have a few things on my homework list. The other shower thought I had was I don't know the market clearing price for this service we're providing. I'm kind of experimenting with it. When I first dreamt this up, I launched it in February of 2019, and it was in beta until like basically last week. And I thought, people's frame of reference for the medical devices group is zero. That's how much it costs to be on LinkedIn and get my emails and all that good stuff. So I thought, I think the biggest spend mentally for people is to go from zero to $1. It doesn't matter what the dollar figure is. Just what? I have to get my credit card? What the? So I was anchored quite low, thinking, I don't know that anyone's going to pay. They're used to free Joe Hage, or they're willing to pay anything. And my first point was, I wonder if I could get away with charging 17. And I talked with a friend who's part of a paid Slack community, and he's paying 75. I'm like, what?
A
That's
month?
real? Sorry?
75 a month?
Yeah. But in his 75 a month, which sounds like a money loser for this company, it includes a night out locally where the dinner is paid for. I'm like, okay, how does that work? Okay. Well, anyhow, so he gave me another data point, and I said 17. He says, I would think you could do maybe more. I don't know. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll try 24. But still, I had an interim period of 19. Then I launched at 24, and I realized that demand is much stronger than that. Then I thought, should I do 29? But demand was so strong in week 1 that I moved it to 34. And after a conversation I had with someone yesterday, I said, no, 39 is light. So right now, today it's 39. It's $15 more than it was last week. And as I talk about it more, like somebody asked me last week, so are you thinking this is the new medical devices group? And I said, no, there's no way 250,000 people are getting on here, nor could I support it with the amount of love and attention that I plan to lavish on each guest. So the question I think would be really interesting, and I'm going to ask it of the group when I figure out what's the right tool to use to ask it. Given that everyone who's on a call ever is already locked in at the price they paid when they first joined, because that's my promise to you, and my thank you for trusting me as this was early. I'd be interested to know, given the value you're experiencing so far, and I know Alan's answer will be different than yours because he's one of my beta people, and you came in, I think, at 24. I'm wondering, given what you now know about this product, what is the absolute most you could think I would still be willing to pay that to be part of this community? And I wonder what that answer is. And I think it's a question, if you were to give your clients the guarantee that their price will never change. Now, it's different in your businesses because talent prices change and raw materials change, so that guarantee is harder. But my cost doesn't change. My opportunity cost might change, but I can make the corporate decision that I'm never changing your price. So in my case, I get to ask, how much would you be willing to pay for this? So that I can begin to get real-time kind of data, customer feedback about, and have it be unfettered by, I'm afraid to give him an honest answer because he might change my price. So, gentlemen, I ask you, how much would you be willing to pay for this service so far? You can answer now, give it some thought, whatever, but I'm intrigued by that idea. So that was a shower thought today. Oh, and here's something else that I'm already beginning to redesign the homepage for this site. This is not live yet, as you can see, lorem ipsum. And this is the current site. which runs this innocuous movie in the background, just to kind of give you a sense of activity. These are all videos from events that I've run to make it look like a vibrant community. This is going away. And so what I've got so far is I'm going to, here's Alan, look. This is just a mock-up, but there's a way to embed LinkedIn posts onto your website. So I'm planning to do that here, where right now there's only one. I have to manually put them in. There's not a way to just have it feed. To choose, because I think this is far more relevant to people than the ads that they weren't clicking on. Anyhow, so just some early thoughts about how to change this up.
So Joe, I've got some thoughts for you. You know, there's some elasticity in all this, but I like the idea of titration, which is, you know, you have a target, like this is how many people would be the optimal number in this group. And as you start to reach that number, you just slowly raise the price, because, you know, if you price is too low
right now.
Yeah, and that's what you're doing right now.
Yep.
So it kind of figures itself out. You know?
Still, it would be interesting. I mean, if all of you said, I pay $1,000 a month, then my titrated increments won't be $5. They might be $20. That's why I thought it would be interesting. Why on earth is Zachary still home? Why on earth is Zachary still home? Because we're blowing off first period is the answer, ladies and gentlemen.
I see a great future for that boy.
Mark offers, I see a great future for that boy. Son, will you unlock the front door, please? Thank you. Damn me is his reply to that. Damn you. Anyhow, so those are some thoughts I have today. Now let me go ping my friend Eckhard and say, Dear Eckhard, where the hell are you? He's not even online. What do you think? Stage fright? I don't know.
Where is he located?
He's in either Ireland or the UK, I forget.
Oh, okay.
And he hasn't filled out his profile all the way, so I'm not able to conveniently click on his LinkedIn profile. So having said that, let's see how well behaved each of you are. Poorly behaved? Poorly behaved?
Guilty.
Poorly behaved.
So I met the curve. I'm glad.
Yes, you have. You're doing at least as poorly as everyone else. Congratulations.
What is poorly behaved? What do we need to do to be well behaved?
We didn't fill out our profiles.
You didn't fill out your profile, so the way to do that is
My profile is filled out.
not
No,
adequately.
I found out there's a lot more missing. I did
Here,
what
you click on your name, and you click Edit Profile, and you see your photo, the way to display your name, what you do, what your phone number is if you choose to share that, what time zone you're in, what your LinkedIn, website, and calendar URLs are.
I have that filled out.
Who does?
Yeah, I got mine filled out, except for I didn't want to put in my calendar URL.
Let's see.
Or do I?
So you do. Although I might choose to change this to be the link.
Yeah.
It confuses people, I think.
Yeah.
So the way I'm recommending people fill it out is by putting the URL in both places.
Okay. Here, give it another try. It should. I think I just updated that.
I'll give you another try.
Thanks, Joe.
Mhm.
There we go.
I don't know if I have to. There we go. Yeah, that worked.
Now I look official.
Now let's get you a Calendly. It's free.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Uh-huh. So it's CALEN, there, calendly.com. Now, just last week, I chose to upgrade, although I've taken advantage of 0 of the upgrade benefits so far, because I just haven't had time. But for free, you can have one setting. My free one used to be 30 minutes. And let's see, I can edit it. And when can people book this event? So this says that you can book me sometime between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. That is me. This is my most productive time. And then there's the potential for a nap. I really should change this. The nap has been going later and later. Then let's see. Then I can ask questions. What's your name? What's your email? Those are mandatory. What will we discuss? And I let you know I prefer to do face-to-face meetings. Here's where we would meet. Is that cool? Yes, not at this time, voice only. For good measure, what's the best phone number for you? Then I say, I record all my calls so I don't have to take notes. Are you okay with that? Sure, no problem. Ask me during the call. Do not record. And Calendly confirmation page. So I think director, add a custom link. So what I could do is I shared this in marketing yesterday because marketing. This is smart. This is the thank you page I got served after booking an appointment with what I think was Calendly. Thanks for booking. And it's blank. Oh, no, it's not blank, even though I filled it out. It gave me a questionnaire. Now, I don't know what app they use for this, but it's probably easy enough. This is about lead generation, which is not so interesting for me, but it is for my clients. And I have a client in mind who is really hurting for leads. So I kind of answered on her behalf. And so just my website, how many leads am I capturing? How many leads do I need? What am I trying to solve, etc. And you could do this too. So you can start a call with passing all of the stuff that you need to know to have an effective call. So that's Calendly. I think the custom link might be a paid feature. For reference, the entire year cost me $144.
Okay.
And that's me paying for like the deluxe, and I've yet to really leverage what deluxe does. It looks like today's is going to be a marketing call instead of a reliable traceability. It's ironic that the word reliable is in the name of today's call. Where the hell is he? Okay, now we go. Hello. Hello. You put a colon and then type something that you think might be an emoji, and there it is. Alternatively, you click on this smiley face and you scroll and you find the thing you're looking for, or you type in cake because it's somebody's birthday. Oh, look at that, skin tone. Huh. Choose your default skin tone. I've learned that yellow is neutral and acceptable and probably politically safest. But I could definitely see a person of more color than me choosing to express that in their hand. I like it. let's see. Mark Fine. Certainly got a good looking picture. That works. There he goes. So in terms of that curve we were talking about, Andre,
I'm at the bottom now.
you are. You're back in the old world again. Here's another thing I want to do with our weekly calls is, I think I've already done my piece. Come armed with a knowledge nugget. Kind of a 1 minute fast round for everyone on the call to teach the rest of the people on the call something that they didn't know. So I think I've covered you either on Calendly or integrations or emojis or something. So while we're waiting, who wants to teach Joey something this morning? Andre, teach me something.
I'm trying to think, Joe. I'm not a font of information this morning, I think.
Alan, you're alphabetically first. You go. Teach me something that that a non-engineer should know when working with engineers.
Engineers should know working with engineers. Drawing a blank.
That's it.
The pressure's
We're on the
overwhelming.
spot, Alan. We're on the spot.
Having a thought. Let me see if I can make it into something that's useful.
Okay. How about you, Mark Fine?
So this is what I learned. Years ago when I was at Diasonics, I was the only marketing person allowed in the engineering lab. And that's because I bought them food, care and feeding of engineers. So that was the most fun place to hang out. Yeah.
Well, you have an engineering background, don't you?
No.
Nothing at all?
At the time, I was a newbie. Yeah, I mean, in 30 years, I've absorbed.
Picked up a thing or two, yeah. But it's, I always had the idea that it had something to do with your discipline. You didn't like study and choose to be a marketer and sales guy.
Well, I've got a bachelor's in nursing, so that's where I got my clinical chops. And then I got my master's in public health, which is where I learned all the stuff about being a hospital administrator and epidemiology and all that good stuff. But no, so I've done a lot of, and I've worked for nonprofits like the Heart Association and educational stuff. But when I joined Diasonics, I was running clinical trials at Stanford, and they just kind of threw me in and said, "You figure this out." So I didn't know which end of the probe to hold on to, and I figured that out. So I just realized I really liked the engineers, and I needed them because I was the liaison to give them feedback. And I figured, and everybody in my family is either in engineering or in medicine. So maybe I've got the engineering gene, but I enjoy it. But engineers are great to hang out with. They're fun, they're smart, they're funny, and they're very not cynical so much, but they've got critical thinking. You know, their view of marketing is, you know, these guys are sleazy and they make stuff up. Whereas engineers, it's all quantitative and, you know, show me that, where's the data? I want evidence, which I think is pretty useful. So I love it. So yeah, some of my best friends are engineers. So.
Oh wow, okay, we had to go there. Fine, all right.
I had to go there.
The bad marketers are sleazy. I'll throw that in there. There's a qualifier there. They're good
I
marketers.
appreciate that, but believe me, even if I have the halo of good marketer, I got my share of sleaze.
Fair enough.
So here's a funny story I'll share. So I was around the table. Again, this was at Diasonics, and we had our weekly management meetings with marketing, sales, manufacturing, engineering, blah, 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 and the CEO. And the engineers were complaining, and they said, "Hey, I've got a PhD from Stanford. I'm the one who made this. And how come this sales guy, he works 3 days a week, He's got a gold chain that says, "Damn, I'm good." And he's wearing enough cologne to anesthetize half this room. Why is he making more money than I am? And the VP of sales took a look at him and said, "Hey, take a territory." So I was a marketing guy, product manager, and we started a new division, interoperative imaging. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So I had two hats. So I was a marketing guy 3 days a week and a sales guy managing a sales team the rest of the time. And here's what I learned is that sales guys earn every dollar they make. So when I would go in to see a customer, visiting him with the sales guy, and I'm wearing my marketing hat and I'm from headquarters, they treated us so well, and they inevitably, we'd make a sale. And I thought, this is easy. These guys are way overpaid. When I was wearing my sales hat, calling on doctors, mostly surgeons, they would keep me waiting. They would stand me up. I felt abused, used and abused. And I thought, this is really hard. Lots of rejection, and it's really tough. So I've got tons of respect now for salespeople because, nothing, our boss used to say, nothing happens without a sale. It's like they're the ones paying the engineers' salaries. Basically, you make sales, you get revenue, everybody gets paid. No sales, no company. So I like salespeople and I like engineers. I don't know how I feel about marketing people, Joe, but still, but anyway, but I are one, so.
It just occurred to me, and I know this is true of the UK, but I don't know this globally. Last week was daylight savings for the UK, this week for America. So Eckhard might be an entire hour behind. In fact, let me double check. Well, I don't know what his frame of reference is, so we'll just find out. Well, let's continue with our little round table. If either of the other two seated gentlemen have something to share, share with the class.
I've got one more thing, so this will buy some time. Years ago, I met a fellow named J. Conrad Levinson, and he wrote a book called Guerrilla Marketing. And any of you, in his whole series, and he used to give a lot of talks and stuff. If any of you are ever starting a company or trying to bootstrap, it's how to look like you're a big gorilla without spending any money. And I just found that to be incredibly useful. It's like how to get free PR without having to pay for advertising, how to launch stuff. It's called Guerrilla Marketing, and it's, you can find it everywhere.
I'm familiar with the book, but remind me, who's the author?
J. Conrad Levinson. He passed away a few years ago, but super nice guy. He was living in the Bay Area.
I'm not likely to pick up the book because I'm rather familiar with the subject matter, but yes, I agree. For someone who's not, it's important stuff.
Yeah.
Good morning, Lawrence.
Greetings.
Greetings. And I know Miss Robin is joining us. I can see her. Well, I saw her mic, then it went away.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, hi. Do we still have no camera for you? Is that the problem?
Sorry.
All right, everybody, I hate to do this to you. It's an upcharge for being part of the community. Everyone, please send $1 to Robin Barnes, P.O. Box 603, San Antonio, Texas.
I will ask for one for Christmas.
There you go.
They're like $20, love. I'm going to send you a link right now.
Oh, I didn't know they were. See, that's how long it's been since I looked at them.
Yeah, you totally. If you're going to play along with everybody, that's what we're going to do. So I'll find that link. Larry, what's the good word today? You may recall that I introduced the concept of everyone come prepared to share one nugget of knowledge. Surely you have a spare nugget in there.
Well, at noon Central Time, I'm going to be doing a webinar, and it's called The Mindset of an FDA Employee. And the key takeaway for that is that industry people who deal with FDA think that FDA people think the same way that they do, that the people in the industry think the way, and of course FDA thinks the same way. And in my webinar, I explain why that's not true. and that the FDA employees actually have different approaches to how they do their job and different motivations. And the goal is, of course, that the more you know about FDA, the better off you are. And at the end of this webinar, hopefully the participants will feel much more comfortable when they have to deal with FDA people.
I have the jingle in my head. Dun, 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 dun. The more you know.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
what
gonna
time is your
tell you
webinar?
about that.
It's at noon.
What time zone are you in?
Organization that's sponsoring it is called Compliance Online Webinars.
Oh, I know them.
Yeah, I'm kind of up for hire. These companies call me.
Yeah,
They'll-
that one's one of the paid ones. I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
approached more times than I can count, and they're all like, "Yeah, you speak, you invite everyone you know, and we'll keep 50% by lending you our GoToWebinar account."
No, I wouldn't pay to listen to me, so I know what that is.
Are they asking $249 to listen to you?
Yeah, I'm sure it's something like that. They don't publicize it really well because I've had a couple of them scheduled that they cancel because they didn't get enough people.
I don't waste my time with them.
I like to believe it's not me that is the problem. I think it's more them. So what can I say? It doesn't cost me anything except a little time.
One of our two new additions to the call have something going on that's making echoing noises.
The feedback or something.
I'm thinking it's Robin.
It just went away.
Yeah, Robin put herself on mute, so it was Robin. Come on, Robin. Do we have to buy you a microphone too?
It's the one in the computer.
That should be okay though. Yeah, I'm with you. In fact, last week I went a step further and I went and bought one of those things for plosives and noises.
Wow.
This
I'm
screen
doing
works very well.
voiceovers now.
Looks like CBS News.
What might you cover on the call? Or are any of you facing an issue right now that you want to talk about?
Well,
Yes,
I
it
don't
could
know.
be-
I'm a regulatory guy, so that's what I tend to talk about. But any medical device company has to face FDA at some point in time, either through inspections or through submissions. And I'm in an issue now with what's called the pre-submission program or the Q-sub program. FDA established this about 6 or 7 years ago as a way to start the review of your application before you actually submit it. And they did that because they were under some real strict guidelines on review times of applications. For example, 90 days or a 510K, 30 days for an IDE. And if they don't make those, they have to report them to Congress, they lose their funding, their MDUFA, Medical Device User Fee Act funding. And they've used that money to hire a lot of reviewers. So what can we do to make sure that we can review these within 30 days, IDE, that's what I'm working on now. We'll ask them to do pre-submissions. And it's good and it's bad. It's good because it allows you to deal with FDA with no money. It doesn't cost anything for a pre-submission, but it takes time, and that's the problem. We've been in probably 6 months of pre-submissions, 5 different pre-submissions for the investigational device exemption. And I could have written the investigational device exemption application 4 months ago and sent it into FDA and got it turned down with a deficiency list, and then answer that, maybe have one more round of additional information and have it approved. The dilemma is and also have FDA upset at me because I didn't use the pre-sub program. So bottom line is my client, this is a company I'm working with, is not very happy. It's taken too long. And I told them, okay, this is our last pre-sub. We're going to submit the IDE, and I'm going to call the reviewer next week and just kind of lay it on him that, we think we've gone up far enough with this whole program. But it's when you're planning your project, your development project, need to build these pre-submissions into it early on. You know, when you get your design inputs and you're designing you need to do a pre-sub and show them that, and just have it part of your development process. And if you do it right, when you submit your application, they're going to know 90% of what they needed to know about your product already. They're going to be very happy because they'll be able to review it within their time frames, and you'll end up getting it approved. So I think that's the key, is planning it in and doing it, not do it haphazardly, which I've been doing haphazardly since I wasn't in on the development schedule. Okay, that's my free update on pre-submission meetings.
Thank you. Andre, what's going on by you? Anything you want to share?
We're just actively working with our clients. You know, we give the full gamut of all the engineering from the conceptual stage, including the regulatory, and then we're also a registered device manufacturing facility. So we're seeing some real growth now in our business, because people are looking for, you know, especially foreign companies are looking for US-based final assembly and QC, kind of a final touch for regulatory purposes. So our company's growing pretty well right now, and as I said in my testimonial to you, Joe, I'm glad you put this together, because sometimes you feel like you're all alone in this, and it's great to be able to just bounce things sometimes.
I appreciate that. No, I really did appreciate that note. I just put in the chat box for GoToMeeting a link. I want to draw your attention to the regulatory EU channel. You don't have to join it to look, but Loke is on the phone, and he doesn't have a mic, and I don't know that he can see us, but he says he can hear us. And he asked a question earlier in the week, and I think Larry, at a minimum, and perhaps others, can comment on it.
Right.
I'll put it on my screen here. He's talking about IFUs. So I'll give you a moment to read that. I don't know if it's large enough to see off my screen, but I figure Larry might not be part of this channel, and he may have some advice that he can lend. Loke, did I pronounce that properly? I'm really eager to hear your name pronounced, because he joked that it sounds like the G is caught in your throat. Oh, Luke Gaiden. That's my best guess. It's Luke. Okay, my son is Luke, so that'll be easy. Larry, are you familiar with this area?
Well, yeah, I certainly from an FDA perspective, I am. The law says you have to provide adequate instructions for use, and for most prescription devices or drugs, the adequate instructions for use takes the form of an instructions for use, essentially an IFU document, and that's the challenge. If you know, if the device is so simple, like a scalpel, for example, you don't need to write an IFU for a scalpel. You know, you can put the
anything. You don't have to write anything.
No, it's really, it gets down to adequate instructions for use, and if it's an RX product, the MD, of course, has the knowledge necessary to use your product, so you don't have to write it for a layperson. Now, if you're going to market a non-prescription, or market a device or a medication for non-prescription, one of the conditions that you have to meet is that you can write instructions that a layperson can read and use the product safely. And so that's the kind of the design validation or human factors thing you have to confirm that is. So it's like nowhere, I don't believe anywhere in the regulation it talks about an IFU. It talks about adequate instructions for use. And the kind of the industry standard in response to that is develop a separate booklet or pamphlet or something like that, the IFU, which they provide along with the product. And the fact of the matter is that most physicians don't even read it. You know, they might read a little bit of it, but it's clearly their skill set that allows them to use the device safely.
Larry?
So, yeah.
Yeah, Larry, so our company, we've mainly been doing therapeutic medical electronics, which are software-based and, you know, they're therapeutic. But candidly, you know, we've been a medical device manufacturer since before the medical device laws were instituted in '76. And I don't remember ever anybody looking into the IFUs. So, you know, we've taken the position that, you know, if we have just somebody internally that's not an engineer can run the device adequately by just going through the IFU, we've done our job, because there just doesn't seem to be any kind of standard. And I don't know if you've got anything further than that, but we've taken a position that there is really no guidelines.
All right. Well, you work out your labeling when you submit your product for FDA review. If you submit a 510K, you put the labeling in there.
Correct.
The 510K is not specifically an approval of labeling, but they certainly look at it, and if they have any issues with it, they'll bring it up. But the key thing you said, and that's the validation part of it, is taking someone who doesn't have a high skill set and say, here, use this. And like with software, you can build so many instructions into the programming and keys and link. So you may need very little written instructions.
Exactly. That's been our position, that it's self-explanatory. If you got a touch screen there and it prompts you through all of the instructions, we don't see the need to put these long, you know, I've seen some people that put these ridiculous flow charts in and stuff that I actually think is more confusing. So I think it goes you know, they try to overdo it, and I think that's more confusing.
Well, that's a key point there. FDA will never criticize you for over labeling or over informing your customer.
Exactly.
You could write a 100-page book about your product, and FDA would say that's great if that's information that they need. But the key is the formal validation study, where you do it, where you use it and you document it. You put acceptance criteria as to what has to happen, and then you verify that can be done, and that becomes your documentation. If anybody says to you, FDA says, how come you don't have instructions for use? Say, we don't need them, and we've proven it by our validation study.
You can see in the chat window that Luke wrote, MDR talks about labeling, including any marketing material. IFU is part of that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So Joe,
sure.
I've got a question. Quick question. So I've done IFUs and I've written user manuals and all that stuff, and I just use Microsoft Word. And you had asked me a question a couple of days ago. You said, what tools do you use to create this? Are there tools or applications? I've never heard of anything like that.
I don't know of any. Word works for me.
That's interesting.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Well, that's Eckhard, and I think he shut off his camera for a moment because he didn't think that we wanted to meet his wife, when in fact we all want to meet your wife. So yeah, I realized it because I have a client in the UK, and you guys turned your clocks back last week, and we turn it back on Sunday. So that's why you were off by an entire hour. My bad. Good. I think this whole daylight savings thing has got to stop. They cost us valuable time today.
Ridiculous.
Winston Churchill, come on. We have electricity now. It's abundant.
We don't have to milk the cows right now, so.
Well, I will give, let's bring that conversation to a close, though. Mark, you were saying about IFUs, and I don't know if there were other comments about it, and then we'll move to today's topic. Anyone?
I said my piece.
Okay. Okay. I've made Eckhard the presenter, so when he's ready, he can share his screen, because I think you have a slide or two, right? This isn't a formal presentation, but just kind of a thought starter conversation.
Yeah, okay. So I hope you see my screen now.
I do.
There we go.
Okay. Still?
Yep.
Ah, that's cool. So This is
I'm
about
going to mute
traceability.
myself and take myself off camera for the moment so we can give you more real estate.
Okay, thank you. So my talk or my issue is about traceability and mainly about requirements traceability, which is a hot topic everywhere in the systems industry, electronic systems, data systems, medical devices systems, automotive systems, everywhere. And this is not about traceability of medical devices in the field. This is a different story, a totally different story. So I start with what is a trace? A trace is a connection between the what, and this is very important to distinguish a requirement. It's independent if it's a regulatory requirement or a technical requirement, is something about what needs to be done or what shall a system be doing later on after development. And another thing is the how, and that's implementation and design. And it's very important to be able to create traceability, to have very sharp borders between those two. And then, of course, the verification and validation. This is the check of, is the implementation and the design really fulfilling the requirements? And this is called, for me, a trace or a relation. Traceability is the ability to follow up on the reasons why something, or based on which requirements something has been implemented, and also what the tests about that are and the verification criteria. So for this example, I take what the requirements, technical requirements, devices shall monitor the blood pressure, or the user shall be able to read the result on the display. In real life, these are not so, most of the time are not so clear requirements written down, but I think we need to go there later on. And one of the regulatory requirements could be one requirement from ISO, one part from ISO 13485 2016, and this is clause 4.2.4. And if you look at this is a long sentence, and it's in fact contains 4 different requirements that have to be fulfilled or denied. And this makes traceability very hard, because you have to trace 4 requirements and not only one. The how in this cases could be, for example, implementation number 1, the sensor takes measurement every 10 seconds, and the display is a fully flexible OLED display with 800 to 600 dots and touch sensitivity.
Excuse me, Eckhard.
Yes?
At least on my screen, I've only seen one slide. If you're changing slides, I haven't seen it.
Oh.
Anybody else, Alan or Larry?
Yeah, it stayed on the same slide. It says changes risk. That's the only slide.
Yeah, it's only on your slide number 8. It hasn't moved from there from the beginning.
Oh, I see. Yep, me too. Yeah, you'll want to put it in presentation mode.
Now we see slide number 1.
Okay. Then
You know how to do presentation mode, Eckhard?
Slideshow mode.
I don't know.
Yeah, and there you are with your funny language. I can't even point you in the right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is, I continue like this because it's easier for me like that.
That's fine.
I make it a little bit bigger. Oh, too big. So, the what, the how, the check we had, and these are the technical requirements here. And 2 of the requirements I took out of this regulatory requirement here from ISO 13485. This long sentence is one requirement. or or to be seen like one requirement, to be precise. So the implementation is done, and in the regulatory world, we have defined SOPs for 2 of those requirements, and then we need to check. We have test case 1, the sensor takes measurement, yes or no. The sensor sends same.
Is there a button that says dia show? Oh, there, I can see it. I think it's under Hilfe, that image, and then 2 over is a little plus sign, but not a plus sign. Go 2 to the right. 1. Click. No. Yeah, click on that. Let's see what happens.
I thought I had that before.
No, it hasn't affected anything either.
No.
I looked up German for slideshow, and it's dia show. So we're looking for the slideshow button. I'm just finding it very distracting to see text search clicking.
I see.
Usually on the right bottom of the screen, there's something to click on, at least on mine, but I don't see it on yours.
Yeah, I think the problem is
You know what? Maybe the one all the way to the left, under data, there's a red.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Is that a?
No, this creates a new presentation. I will not touch that one. I think the problem is that if I go to full screen mode.
Go to full screen. Let's see what happens.
No, it's the wrong direction. Now I see you again.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Right.
All right. Well, I'm sorry. I don't speak German PowerPoint. I can't.
I don't have any idea how to fix that. I know that the program switches the whole screen sharing somehow.
I'm going to guess that Hilfe means help.
Yep.
Click on that and type in dia show, and it will probably tell you how to start that. That's my bet.
Nice try, Joe.
Oh no, it's a different thing.
It works, you know. That.
It's getting more and more complicated.
I'm wasting everyone's time with this. We can deal. I'll just go find some medication for myself and I'll calm down. Go on ahead.
So what do we do now?
Continue with your presentation in this format, I would suggest.
Okay.
And if you want to back up just a little bit, because I've distracted the hell out of everybody, to give context again, because now all I can think about is format. Sorry, it's the marketer in me. I'll be quiet.
Okay, I see. So we distinguish between the how, the what, the how, and the check, and the relation between these 3 creates a traceability. So we have several relations between these objects, and as an example, I drew up 2 technical requirements, like a rather clean requirement TR1. The device shall monitor the blood pressure, and some requirement that's more like a use case. The user shall be able to read the result on the display. And the regulatory requirements usually are much longer because people try to fill more content into one sentence than is necessary. And based on these requirements, based on these what's, we have created the how, technical solutions like what the sensor does and how the display looks like. And for the regulatory requirements, we have the SOPs. And the check is done by test cases that are rather technical things like these two ones. The second test case is not so easy because you cannot simply check if it's a yes or no. For regulatory requirements, you can check if it's a yes or no. And after that, you have some kind of relations like this. So we have technical.
Joe, again, I'm sorry, it just occurred to me. If you send me the presentation, I can display it, and you can just say, next slide, please. I'm
Yes,
sorry,
yes.
I can't help myself.
Yeah, you're definitely a marketer.
I am. I can't.
It's working fine for me.
Okay.
Okay.
You can send it to me on Slack.
Yeah, I need to check how I can do that. Just a second.
You can just drag it in, or you can hit the paper clip. Right here, you can hit that.
Do you still see my screen?
No, not anymore. Now we see my screen. I'm waiting to receive your file so I can open it.
Yeah.
Good training on Slack.
There you go. A little extra. Yay. Now I'm going to download it. And I'm going to open the containing folder, and I'm going to double click. And now I'm just going to take my little victory lap so everyone can say, Joe is so smart.
PDF file, it's not PowerPoint.
Let's see. There we go. All right. What page are we on?
Just move to the next one. Next one. The next one. Yeah, next one. Yeah, this one. So, as you see here, the TR1 has a relation. This is the black arrow that's going to implementation number 1, and also two black arrows to TC1 and TC1.1. These are two traces, and another trace is from the implementation to the test cases, and I only drew up one. And this looks rather easy, but it gets more and more complicated when you go to the next slide, please.
Just quickly, TR stands for trace, and TC
No,
stands for what?
Technical. TR stands for technical
requirement.
And
TC?
Test case.
Okay, and
Implementation.
And standard operating procedure. And RR? Regulatory requirement?
Right.
Okay.
So the properties of relations, and this is very important to memorize later on. Of course, you have a source object and a target object where the relation goes to, and an identifier is also important, so you can identify the relation in the further steps. But most of the importance is on the status. because you can have a link established, a relation established, it can be suspicious and it can be broken. And everything else is some kind of optional, like who created it, when, and when was the last change. This is of minor importance. Now the next slide, please.
What software are we using for all of this?
For the traceability,
Yes.
we come to that later. Just give me a few seconds more.
Okay.
So I said change is dangerous because as soon as you, for example, for the left part for TR1, if you change the requirement to TR1 version 2, all your links are somehow broken or suspicious because you never know if the implementation is correct, and you also don't know if the if the test cases are correct anymore. What stays true is the relation between the implementation you have already to the test cases you have already. And the same applies to regulatory requirements. Basically, there's not much difference between regulatory requirements and technical requirements. So if you change the SOP to version 2, you break the relation to the verification case, because the verification doesn't reflect the actual version 2 SOP anymore. This is the most difficult thing in traceability when you start doing changes. On a clean table, everything is easy. Next slide, please. So this is the tool side. In Word and Excel, you don't have any chance to do that. It's simply not possible, technically. You need a database, and that means, for example, if you look at the properties of a trace, you have a source object and a target object. In ISO 13485, you have more than 1,500 single requirement objects, and in the MDR, you have more than 3,600 single requirement objects that have to be linked to some documentation during the process. So you can only do this with a database tool. And I think the time of doing documentation in Word and Excel really is over now. Hard to see for some people, but it simply doesn't work. It gives a lot of trouble and headaches later on.
When you say hard to see for some people, does that mean that you encounter clients who are still doing it that way?
Yes, a lot of clients. Most of the companies I see still write their documentation in Word and still are writing anything in Word and trying to master it and master the relations in Excel, where they put in links to documents, but documents are too big for if you have to comply for 1,000 requirements or even more. Documents are too big. It simply doesn't work anymore. And if you get to new versions of the document, it's strange. I don't know how the medical device industry in the United States is working, but at least in Germany and most parts of France and England, it's still document-based.
I can actually comment on that, Joe.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself, Robert.
Yeah, this is Rob Packard. I'm a regulatory consultant in the U.S.
Why don't
And I
you put
used to work
your
for
camera
BSI,
on?
so I'm very familiar with the requirements for Europe as well.
You have your camera, Rob. You have your camera. Go ahead and put it on.
I'm driving my car, so we're going to avoid that.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
When I stop, maybe. But the U.S. has the same requirement for traceability, particularly for software and anything that has electrical hardware, typically you'll have traceability as well. And companies are still trying to do things in Word and Excel, and it's not the right tool. They need a database. Just the essential requirements alone in the Annex 1 of the MDR are so big that I think a lot of companies are going to wake up and say, we just can't do this in an Excel spreadsheet anymore. But there are still some novice companies that do, and it's really only possible if you have a passive device. So if it has electrical or software, it's really not possible.
Yeah.
And I even have software development companies asking me if they can do a paper-based system, and I just roll my eyes because you're a software company that can develop embedded software for a device, but you can't use a database? Why?
Yeah, the why is, I understand this, Robert, because the why, I have been working very long years in the automotive industry, and the automotive industry is one of the industries that have introduced database systems like DOS or PTCRM very early in the 2002 or 2003 years, and they are still struggling with traceability. If it is not set up correctly from the beginning, it gives so much trouble afterwards. And you really have to have that experience to set up proper traceability. And most software companies might think, okay, it would be good to have such a system, but we don't know how to set it up. And it would be maybe easier to just write some Word documents to get it done. That's my felt or sensed reality.
Shall I advance the slide?
Yes, please.
Oh my, what's this?
This this is a picture. This is some kind of flow chart to get ready for the MDR, and this is something you see as a big jigsaw puzzle, maybe with 300, 2,000 pieces, and you have to get them all together. And I use that basically most of the time when I do presentations live, where I have a real jigsaw puzzle. Because if you put this picture into a 500 pieces jigsaw puzzle, you need maybe 2 or 3 days to finish it when you have the photo, when you have the plan. But most of us don't have the plan, and you can finish this if you use a simple trick and put a number of each of these pieces on each of these pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. So you have to put them just in the row following the numbers, and that is why I created a database for the MDR. If you move to the next slide now.
I'm not ready to. I'm really confused about what I'm looking at.
But that's just art. It's a picture. It's meaningless.
Okay, the point is you should be confused. Okay, got it.
Where's the reset button?
Doesn't exist. So
okay.
Here you see one part on the database view on the MDR. The orange fields, if you could increase them a little bit, if you could zoom in so that we can see better the orange fields, maybe.
Like that?
Yeah, there you see each of these objects in the MDR has a unique number, and we can from that communicate on MDR requirement 778 or 773 or something like that.
What software is this?
This is a database that I created myself based on Redmine, which is software in a open source software. It's free available.
Did you say Redmine? REDMINE?
Yes, that's correct.
Never heard of it. Has anyone on the call heard of that before?
No.
All right, you taught us something new. Thank you. Please continue.
This is originally it was created as a bug tracking system, but nowadays you can use it for bug tracking, project management, documentation, version management for documents and everything else, everything you need for software development, basically. And I created this MDR part to have each of these MDR objects as a requirement. And if you go to the next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
We are coming close to an end.
Yes.
Here you see on the bottom, you see some kind of different color. Related issues, this marks relations. And you see this issue is, or this part of the MDR is related to a requirement of ISO 13485. And if you go on in this database, you also have the single requirements for the ISO 13485, and you can deal with that. And next slide, please. And this is just an addition. It doesn't have to do anything with traceability, or not a lot at least. You can do all kinds of things with these database objects, like classification or prioritization and so on. It's just to give you an impression. Yes.
It begs
and so
the
on.
question, so what do we have to do to be able to use your tool? Do you charge for it? Is it part of your consulting? What?
This is the tool itself is part of my consulting. You can use it. My goal, my vision with that tool originally is that there is a free version for all consultants,
Mm-hmm.
and that we all that we create a global thing, open source, freely available, so that we are able to talk, to communicate with each other based on those objects and not on chapter 7 clause X,
Mm-hmm.
Y, Z, and so on. And I now see that if what I think is a little bit difficult in Slack is that if you have have a question to a specific part and you give an answer, it goes away in the timeline. But in this tool,
not necessarily true. I can teach you something about that, but I'm sure it doesn't replace the functionality that you've created here. I'll teach that to you in a moment, but please continue.
Yeah, my vision is that all answers to specific questions regarding the MDR or ISO 13485 or any other standard that is put in there is answered in the tool, and that you can easily find all answers there. And also the guidance documents from the European Commission can be directly linked to those requirements, so that you have a real pool of knowledge then. That's my vision. And
Let me pause you there. Surely
traceability.
someone on the phone has a follow-up question about that. I know I do, and I'm not in this part of the medical device world. Do you have a question for Eckhard about how he sees that working? If not, I'll go first. And that is, I've never personally, I'm not a coder, or I certainly don't build things from scratch like that. I don't understand open source well enough. I'm under the impression that Wikipedia, for example, which is open source, lets anyone go in there and throw in a false fact, and then someone has to report that that's wrong. If we're open sourcing this, could I maliciously come in here and screw up your thing? Or do you have an install that is pristine, and anything I do over here that manipulates it won't ruin it for everybody else?
The thing is that not everybody can change everything. We have specific rights management in that tool, which is necessary for medical devices anyway. So only people who are trusted enough may enter things, and there is a process of review and approval. So
you get to decide who you trust and what they put, and say,
yes.
yeah, I'll go ahead and publish that.
Pardon?
You get to decide what gets published to the live site, as it were. You have
Yes.
moderation privileges. I understand that. I've been doing that for a couple of years until LinkedIn took away that functionality, but this is not about me. Please continue.
That's a different topic, that's true.
Yes, entirely. Okay, if no one else, do you want me to advance to the last slide?
Is there a last slide? Oh,
Well,
yes.
you're on 14 of 15.
Yeah, of course. But the last slide is, yeah, advance please. So what I thought is I will start a public beta phase of that tool soon for the public version. And my invitation to the MDG Premium members is to register the email address. Send me an email on that address, and I'll let you know as soon as I go public beta with that software. And I'm happy to see you there, and I would love to have this up and running soon in cooperation with you all.
Here, I'm just making
That's it from my side for now.
Joe, are you sending that email address out?
I am, but actually, I'm instead just editing his thing here a little bit.
Okay, got it.
Very good.
I just kind of made this little edit. I'll put this out here.
Okay.
And I'll just go here and I'll
Okay.
run this part here.
You're eliminating email.
Very good.
There, that's better. I hope you don't mind. I just made the
No,
quick little.
it's okay.
I'm using Adobe Acrobat, by the way, for those of you wondering how I manipulated a PDF.
Mhm.
And as a marketing person, it's imperative. And for those who are curious, but probably no one, the reason this font isn't that font is because he has an installed font that I don't have, but you get the idea. Now I will save this, and I will show you where I will save it. I'm going to save it in a new folder called Our Weekly Calls.
Excellent.
And there is a folder here called the MDG Slack community. And I'm going to share this link with you over GoToMeeting, not publicly right now, because this feature is available to paying MDG Premium members. Namely, I don't want people to just come in, do the free trial, download a list of all of your names and contact information, and then scoot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Cool.
I will go here, share. Anyone can view, and put it here in chat. If it works properly, then I'll be very happy. Go ahead and look in the GoToMeeting chat, and you should have access to this folder.
Yep, got it.
Yay. Collaboration tools, everybody. Yay. Everybody go like this at once. Yay. No one's willing to participate. Damn you. All right. Fair enough. That was great. Tell me, does anyone on the call want to have a follow-up talk conversation point about traceability, which is decidedly over my head and not what I do for a living? But this isn't about me. Thomas, I know you asked for a copy of the slides, so
Yes.
this is obviously of interest. What do you do?
Well,
Introduce yourself. This is the first time we're seeing you.
well, hey, thanks for Joe for the invitation. I've been in consulting for about 15 years, more so in publishing, uh, intellectual property, more so in the traditional publishing world. But I've developed a relationship with an orthopedic company and been brought in to help them with market development and really just getting up to speed on the regulatory and understanding that before we can really do market development tasks, I've just been double checking the boxes to make sure that everything is compliant. And so I've been on a learning curve there, and it's been a good one. But the company I work with right now principally is a market leader for FAB devices for children with club feet, and we're number one in the U.S. space, and probably two in UK, Europe, and number one in Australia, Pacific Rim. And it's just a great place to be.
What does FAB stand for, please?
It's fixed foot abduction. You know, a child that goes through the fixed foot abduction was something that was brought forward back as early as the mid 1800s. It became popularized as a conservative method for treating club foot as opposed to surgery. And the medical device product evolution went through several phases where the devices, the infants were getting in the devices at basically right after birth. And so you've got a child that goes through a series of casting for 6 to 8 weeks. Then they go into the medical device, which is called the FAB. It's boots and bars, and children that are infants obviously are restrained, and so they were getting a lot of blisters. And so the company I represent work in tandem with one of the thought leaders by the name of Dr. Ignacio Poncetti out of the University of Iowa. And he pioneered from 1940 to about 1995, he really single-handedly was instrumental in reshaping the orthopedic world away from surgery and, popularizing this method of manipulation, casting, and then fixed foot abduction so that the children's feet could be manipulated and healed and that they would ultimately hold. And so that's the sector, the space that I'm in. And my role is just really very similar to what you do, Joe, is messaging, looking at our messaging segments, making sure we're messaging, and also looking at how to grow the customer base with our existing account base. And so,
is this the disease state we're talking about, where the feet are not straight?
Exactly. Yes, sir. It's exactly, and it's really, it's the deformity it's kind of up in the air. It's really formed in the womb. And there's a incident rate that's pretty standard. It's really across the world. It can change a little. There's a little bit of variance, but it's really 1 in every 1,000 births, and predominantly, my statistics may be off a wee bit, but 75% of children are born bilaterally and with club feet, and then you'll have the unilateral conditions. So there's just one foot. So that's the space that I'm in, and looking at how our product has been in the marketplace for better half of 14 years, and what I'm trying to do is to understand how to use technology to do product innovation. We're in an age of data, and how can we do quality assurance? What information could we potentially share to improve? The biggest issue that's facing the club foot industry is brace adherence. Is children
wearing it.
There's a wearing it, and there's a sharing of information, real-time information between the patient, which is the infant, which is administered more so by the mom or the dad, and that communication with the orthopedic doctor. And so we're working on some concepts here that's what's drawn me to the MDG Slack community, is just really trying to get up to speed to regulatory, looking how to embed new technologies, wearable technologies into the FAB, looking at how we can collect data and how that can create a value proposition for quality assurance. And so that's why I'm just very intrigued with the dialogues today. So
I told Rio about you. In fact, I invited her to today's call, but I don't think she could make it. Are you comfortable sharing the name of the company? You don't have to. This is public.
Well,
it's going online.
We're the leader in the market space. It's MD Orthopedics. I'm tasked with market development, I'd be happy to say that we have 83% of the U.S. market share. But
Okay, now
just,
as a marketer, I got to tell you, home is not what you want to write here.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, can't help myself.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, this we won't go into.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's just not the time.
I'm 3 months into
Okay.
my role. Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to redirect you to, if I could, Joe, I'd rather redirect you to MD Orthopedics at .co. I'd prefer to take you to the UK site, .co.uk. It's going to be developed more for a marketing perspective. This right here is really an interface with the ERP. It's a little bit wonky for me. So let's see if this redirects. Mm-hmm. Oh. So, but no, again, just interested in what we can do to basically be able to track and trace the brace adherence, to be able to help moms with their quality assurance and create communication with the doctors. That's kind of one of the missions I'm on right now. Another thing that we're working on is clinical education tools by way of apps where we incorporate the top orthopedic doctors in this space to really help not only in the United States, but one of the big things that we're seeing is that the slider that you just saw with the doctor and the actual device inventor, that's Dr. Ponsetti, and we're 15 years past Dr. Ponsetti, and there's not a true adherence to the method, and so we really feel that we need to be a part of the preservation of the method, and so that'll help. But at any rate, I don't want to take more of the conversation that I have.
I don't know. No, I'm interested. I don't hear any complaints. Here's another little trick for people. Go look for if you use Chrome anyhow, a Chrome extension called HTML5 Media Rate Controller. And when you click on it, you can change the speed at which things are being played back. And I use this all the time because people talk too slowly. And especially here, if there's no sound, I can just kind of get the idea of what it is I'm looking at. And so it's called HTML5 Media Rate Controller. And it works on just about anything. And
Can you put that in the Slack channel for us, Joe?
I think so. I'll have to figure out how.
Okay.
But my family doesn't know how I do it, but I choose to watch movies at 2 or 3 times speed because I have so many things I want to watch. They're like, how can you even enjoy it? I can enjoy it fine, especially if it's like, I've never seen Spaceballs. Frankly, I don't think I'll enjoy it, but it's iconic, so I should see it, but I don't need to spend 2 hours on it. I'll spend a half hour on it. I get the idea. I can slow down for the funny jokes.
Hey Joe.
Yeah.
I gotta shut this down. I gotta get ready for my webinar, but I want to thank this is great information today, and this meeting. It's the second one I've done, and I'm definitely, when I'm available, I will be on it because I learn more than I share. And thank you, Eckhard. And
Yes, sir.
Thomas. All right.
Yes. Oh,
Goodbye.
My pleasure. Hey, I hope somebody shows up for your $200 webinar.
I get paid anyway. It doesn't matter to me.
You do? I thought you only share the profits. He's gone. Yeah, I don't spend any time with that compliance online thing. Okay, well, Eckhard, I know your voice is off right now, but you can put it back on. I'll be interested to know. You can just follow up with me directly. How many people take you up on your open source in this community? I think that'd be great. Are you aware of anyone doing what you've built, or is yours truly incremental?
I'm not aware of anything like that.
You
How many?
you might try partnering with some nonprofit companies that are developing medical devices. I don't know any off the top of my head, but the nonprofits definitely would be in a situation where they really want to contribute as well.
I would think
It's
most
a nice idea.
NGOs, yes?
Mhm.
Most NGOs would be a fair target for him.
Yeah, I think so.
So if you get some information about those NGOs or of what you're thinking right now, please let me know. I'm very happy to help companies or NGOs to use this and to be able to save money and effort in doing things correctly and efficiently in an early stage.
I know that Michelle's not able to make our call today, but I'd be willing to bet Michelle, Monir, another fellow, Michael. There's a half dozen people on this network alone that I think would be interested. So I created a new channel last night called Our Weekly Call. I haven't done what I did and invited everyone, but I do member list, add people. The way I do this is there's no way for me to just say, yeah, add everybody. So I just keep typing A, until I run out of A's. And then I go through the B's. And this is the way I've been adding people when it comes
Filling up that
afterward.
database with questions and answers and documentations is one thing, and the other thing is that also companies could use it to assess, to do their gap assessments and to do a project planning and MDR preparation and transition. I will do the same thing for the IVDR also early next year. And I think we need to use these database tools to get along somehow, because work is not getting less.
Right. Okay. As you may recall, for those of you who came last week, these calls kind of die a natural death when people are finished talking or say, you know what, I really have to get some work done. They leave. So
Well,
there is no like, what?
I'm gonna say goodbye, Joe.
Okay.
But I know you wanted to see my face today, so hello.
I can't see it.
Oh no. How about that? That better?
That's the best part of all. It was so worth waiting for.
Okay, I gotta go. See you later. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.
See you, Rob.
Anyone want to talk about anything else while we're all together? Question for the group or
I have a
back to
question.
share? Yes, Robin Barnes.
Well, first of all, Thomas, thank you for the work you're doing. I was one of those babies that wore those horrible boots and bars things. I tore up more bed sheets than I care to think about, but thank you. I'm one of the topics I'm working on is doing some research on what hot topics are in orthopedics right now. We're looking at possibly doing a presentation at a med device conference, but I don't know what's hot in orthopedics because we don't work in it much. Do y'all know?
Thomas, that's for you. Do you have some advice for Robin on orthopedic topics of interest? You cannot be heard, Thomas. You shut off your mic.
I'm unmuting. Go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, I was going to say anything minimally invasive spine pain. You know, that's huge in orthopedics.
Well, you guys can find Robin directly on Slack, and I'll continue to add people to our weekly call. These up here, announcements, general interest, how to Slack, introduce yourself just for fun, meet in person, our weekly call, and what do you need. I'm making as default channels that I'm having all new people join. If you want to be part of it, but you don't need to get da-da-da every time that somebody says something, you can mute, which will just not give you a notification, but you can go visit anytime. You can leave if it's just not relevant for you. And you can star or unstar. So these are the ones that I am actively managing, plus marketing, which is my discipline. Brent is an active client of mine, so I put him up here to be easy to find because I, unlike most, I am having direct message conversations with everyone on the network, and it gets a little tedious to scroll that much. And then I have a private channel here, which I won't click on because it's private. And all of you can do this. You can create a channel, and I could say, me, Thomas Sharp. And I can make it like this, and it could be Tom's project. And then I can invite Thomas, and Robin's working on it, and Mark Fine's working on it. So you'll see here that it has a lock.
Right.
And I'd be interested to know if anyone else can see this right now. So I'm going to star it. I'm putting it up here. And I would like to know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see it on my screen. Can you see it on your screen?
Well, let me check. Hold on.
So I'm going to shut off my screen. If you go and look at channels by clicking on the plus sign and shopping through all of the available channels, can you see me and Thomas Sharp? I'm learning
No.
this myself. You
No,
cannot?
I don't see it. I do not see it.
Okay. So that's our clandestine group, and I can, attach a file of the most highly sensitive Thomas Sharp related materials. And it's as secure as a $35 billion company would put behind their security, which is not to say that anything is impervious. I can't promise no hacking because we've all had our credit cards defrauded at one point or another, but this is as safe as any kind of secure platform as you'll get. Here's another little trick I'll give you, and I use this all the time. It's it's not working now because I've just asked for it to. There. It's a link called Privnote, Privnote, and I'll show you how this works. I'm going to say my social security number is 123456789. I don't want everybody to know that, so I'm going to create this note, and I'm going to select it, and I'm going to hit Control-C to copy it. And now I'm going to put that in my super special place. And now if I click on it, I'm going to find that you're about to read this note with my social security number in it. Show me the note, but as soon as I open it, no one else can ever open this link again. It has been destroyed. So this is a way that, it's like I have to give you my credit card number. So I'll give you my credit card number, and I know that it's not going to be a link that other people can access at some point or another. What somebody chooses to do with the information, of course, they can say, hey, everybody, I found Joe Hage's social security number and put it on Facebook. But there's a degree of trust that goes with this. So Privnote is another little tool I use. And that concludes my...
We don't hear you, Thomas.
He just waved goodbye, I think.
I was just going to say I need to move on. Pleasure meeting you all. I will continue to connect. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Thomas.
Yes, bye.
Thanks, Thomas.
Okay,
I
I'm
also
also in a...
need to leave soon.
Yeah. I'll just give you all a big heart and say, see you next week, and you know where to find me. On Slack, ladies and gentlemen, MDG Premium is the place to be. Thanks. I'll see you
You got
next
it.
week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.